Yeah, welcome into a Monday edition of KC Sports Tonight here at KC5. I'm Jared Koller, rocking with the star of the show, Gabe Swartz, who I don't want to say public enemy number one today because there's some Mizzou fans watching this, there's some KU fans watching this, but for our lovely K-State viewers, Gabe Swartz was in the building on Saturday night, and this in the business is what we call a tease. Hear his firsthand experience and thoughts and takeaways and hot takes to come from what I put as a K-State shocker, because I don't know if it's shocking that they lost to Arizona State, but the way they did was kind of shocking.
That's fair.
So
we can talk about it later.
We will see. So stick around for that. But I think the headline of the weekend, of course, has to be that for the first time in 328 days, Gabe, we sadly have a Chiefs loss to talk about. I don't like talking about Chiefs loss because it requires me to be more negative than I want to be. But it's not a victory Monday. There are negatives. Let's start there. What are the negatives to come out of Sunday's Chiefs game for you?
It's the first time that they gave up 30 points in seems like forever.
October 2022, Monday Night Football against Derek Carr's Raiders, the last time another team scored 30.
I thought they only scored 29 that day.
Nope. Although
are you sure?
The Eagles, Super Bowl.
I think it's the Eagles. Well,
I
believe I was
Eagles
at
Super
that
Bowl
Raiders
had
game,
35.
and I think the Raiders game was 30-29 on Monday Night Football. You can fact check me. But yeah, it was shocking to see that. I think there's some debate over whether on the third Chiefs touchdown they should have gone for two and gotten themselves into a spot where a touchdown and an extra point would have still been within 8. Or I'm doing the math correct. Yeah, would have been within 8, right?
Yes, and so the streak, it was the streak of not allowing opponent to score more than 28 points. That goes back to the Raiders, which was 29. But the very week before that, they gave up 31 to the Bucs. So it's only 1 week. It's only 1 week more. But nonetheless, yeah, first bad game overall for the Chiefs defense in a while.
Yeah, and I honestly was mostly just impressed with the level of play that Josh Allen had, and it felt like he really did his homework in terms of what the Chiefs kind of like to do, and even when the Chiefs got into a good look, and you had that on 4th and 2 where they played zone coverage and they had things covered up, the Chiefs pass rushers got a little out of their rush lanes, and he finds the space to run through it, and nobody was able to get him to the ground. I was impressed with the way that the Bills' game management was, and from an organization that last year was running odd fake punts that were disasters in a playoff game. Going for it on 4th and 2 and realizing that kicking a field goal to go up 5 is not a spot where you want to be in to put Patrick Mahomes with 4 downs essentially to work on every single drive. Yeah, exactly. I just thought that the Bills made plays, and then it didn't necessarily shock me that the outcome was that way. It's not a game that
Chiefs are underdogs.
Exactly. It's not a game that like upset me either. I think that we both discussed this, and when we were talking about could the Chiefs potentially go undefeated, I said I think that they're still going to lose in Week 10. I think what I saw in Pittsburgh yesterday makes me think they're going to lose on Christmas Day again.
I mean, sure, possibility. But
just because it's another team where they'll probably play a lot of man coverage and they'll be able to get pass rush. But we'll see what happens. I think the most disappointing thing is that there were really encouraging moments. I know that there's the incomplete pass where Worthy probably should have gotten his feet inbounds again. But he had 5 targets in the first half, 4 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown, and then didn't get a target in the second half. And I think that's probably the one area that frustrates me the most is that what was working game planned in kind of the first half script wasn't continued throughout the game. And I think that it's both encouraging that he had that great drive where all 4 catches came on the same drive, and it's discouraging that they weren't able to use him more.
Sure. I mean, you credit the Bills a little bit of that for adjusting. It's not like Andy Reid forgot Xavier Worthy was on the field. And they still had success at times offensively, just with other guys. Noah Gray had two touchdowns. That's where I'm not as worried about someone like Travis Kelce not having a big game, because they clearly were like, okay, we're going to guard 87, leaves 83 wide open, who also had a long play in addition to the 2 touchdowns, which were kind of short. So I think the headline offensively was they were good enough at times. Like when they absolutely needed a score in the fourth quarter, they went right down the field, and that was an encouraging sign. Problem was, the next time they got the ball back, they were down 9. It was essentially over because they struggled in the third quarter. They turned the ball over on the first drive. They only had, the 2 touchdowns in the first half. So the offense showed what it can be like, but they didn't play at that level often enough to beat a good Bills team that has a good offense. The defense played well at times, all right?
Yeah, and when they
except
got
not
the,
when it mattered.
When they and when they got the it just wasn't complimentary football. Like when they got the key stops, you can only expect to stop Josh Allen so many times on the road.
Exactly.
They got 2 stops out of halftime, and the Chiefs offense had 2 drives in which they could have taken the lead and had nothing to show for it. And to me, that is where they lost the game.
100%. Well, I mean, the 4th and 2, if you get a stop there, I think
but
if you say the game comes down to one play, and with the way the Chiefs offense looked in that last drive, with that being the drive where they have 4 downs if they're not in field goal range, or they get in field goal range, I think if for whatever reason Josh Allen trips behind the line, I think the Chiefs win that game. So obviously,
but playing from behind as opposed to playing from ahead and being able to dictate.
Well,
things.
Late in the second quarter, they took a 14-13 lead that they weren't able to hold. So that's where it's like, I don't think it was a disaster of a day offensively. I don't think it was even a disaster of a day defensively, because that's how good the Bills are. I think it's a tough matchup, especially when you don't play particularly well. So that's where I think the most discouraging thing for me, Gabe, is that the pass rush was non-existent outside of Chris Jones, and that includes the blitzes, where they blitzed a frequent amount, I would say, and it was never successful. Allen found the open guy pretty much every single time, which the formula for the Chiefs is, hey, get home with 4 or 5, and the times when you can't, blitz, and that works. It works most of the time. It didn't on Sunday, and it was bad. Like that, if they play like that again in the playoffs, they may put up even more points, because that's not a formula for success, what we saw.
Yeah, I think that's a key reason why getting the 1 seed is going to become crucial now, because it's so much easier. Last year, you got about as pristine and precise of a ball control playoff game as you could get in Buffalo, aside from the McCole Hardman fumble at the goal line. But when you don't have to deal with the noise and all that kind of stuff, you can control things a lot more offensively.
You think that was a big factor?
No, I think that the Chiefs defense, it's just way more likely that they're going to force Josh Allen into dumb turnovers at home than on the road in the playoffs. And I think that is, you saw the Bills were able to force Mahomes into, I would say, 1 dumb turnover. The one at the end of the game is whatever.
But Allen had a dumb turnover too.
Yeah, but it was a 4th down, so it you know what I mean? Like,
it's still dumb.
But it could have been a turnover on downs anyway. So
but I don't put that in the same group as like the Mahomes pick at the end where he's just chucking it up deep.
Fair.
But no, I mean, you're right. Yes, I would rather the Chiefs play the Bills at Kansas City. And I more want the 1 seed to avoid what could be a salty 7 seed.
If you get somehow Cincinnati
that's
in there.
The thing, yeah. If the Chargers look
Dolphins.
decent, the Broncos look decent. Like, I mean, that's where the difference between now the Chiefs are going to be better than whatever 7 seed that is. It's going to be at home. But the difference between having to play a salty team versus watching the game from the couch, massive. Avoiding that week of injuries, any injuries that might come from a playoff game, having another week of rest for Hollywood Brown or Isaiah Pacheco or anyone else banged up. Like, I think that's the biggest takeaway from this Bills-Chiefs game, because I don't really think of the Chiefs any differently or the Bills any differently today than I did on Saturday. But had Kansas City won on Sunday, I think the 1 seed was signed, sealed, delivered.
Agreed.
And now I still think the Chiefs, like Neil's a little bit worried, like, if Chiefs lose 1 more, the Bills win out. Like, yeah.
The Bills are not winning out. Their next 3 games are San Francisco, Detroit, and
There's one other salty team.
The Rams.
If they go through that, then okay, maybe. But even the Chiefs, like, I'm not scared of the Steelers. I'm not scared of the Texans. Could they lose those games? Sure. But just as could the Bills lose, like I don't think it's.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's a toss-up. I think the Chiefs absolutely are the favorite for the number 1 seed. A lot could happen, but it's no longer the given that it would be, which is somewhat disappointing.
Yes.
But now, Gabe, they move on to the Panthers. Like, do you see this? A lot of times in sports, we see the double thud where I think you see it more in baseball where after a long win streak, once it's snapped, they lose, then they lose a second. Football is a little bit that you don't see that as much because there's fewer games. Do you see now them exhaling after the Bills game and see more of a fight against the Panthers?
No, I don't think that. Okay. I wouldn't worry a ton. I actually think that it's very encouraging that you get Spags against Bryce Young next week, and getting that matchup might be one of the spots where the Chiefs defense can actually start to force some turnovers. And then just the offense should
turnovers last year either. It's odd.
The offense should just be able to do
cooking
whatever they really want against the Panthers.
Yeah, and I mean, this was our first game where we saw DeAndre Hopkins and Juju Smith-Schuster on the field together, and neither of those guys had a big game, and that was a little bit surprising. But keep in mind, we could see Isaiah Pacheco for the first time in Carolina spell Kareem Hunt, which is nice because that's the other thing. Kareem Hunt has been great, all things considered. I like that he never gets pushed back. He almost gains 2 yards every time. There's just no explosion in the running game,
None.
really. He had the longest run of the season against the Bills, and it was 17 yards, and even that wasn't phenomenal. So having that threat of Pacheco in the run game, I think will be nice. I think it was a good sign for Worthy, who had a couple down weeks, so maybe this gets his confidence going a little bit. And I have to think at some point they're going to connect on one of those deep balls because now this is the third in a row that they've missed on. All 3 times, Mahomes' fault first, in my opinion, but this time Worthy could have caught it if he dragged his toe.
Yeah.
In the Chiefs punt on that drive, if Mahomes hits that in stride, or even if Worthy drags his toe, they at least get points.
Yeah, they're at least at the 25-yard line and 1st and 10.
Yeah, like when we talk about biggest plays of the game, I think you could say that's number 2. So.
Yeah, I think that it's the Chiefs played like a B- game, and it got them beat. And like that.
Yeah, I'm in that range.
I think the Bills played really great.
And that's a good sign that they still almost could have won, and they probably would have won if they get that stop on 4th and 2. I just don't understand. Like, I don't know what defense was called on that 4th and 2 Josh Allen touchdown run, but to not have what looked like there wasn't a spy in the area, like, in that play, it's 4th and 2. Like, Gabe? What'd you think was happening? I figured Josh Allen would run.
Yeah, I was thinking that he was going to follow a running back for a block.
Yeah, and so I don't know how you have 2 spies out there. Like, I know the Chiefs don't have the fastest linebackers in the world, but like,
certainly not the guy from Mizzou.
No, hey. But yeah, no, I mean, Nick Bolton and he played 100% of snaps. Like, that's the thing. It's like Nick Bolton at times looks tired, which. Understandable. That's not a knock on like playing 100 snaps on defense, especially against a quarterback like Josh Allen. That speaks to the lack of linebacker depth the Chiefs have, unfortunately. That's where I would have liked to see a little bit better defensive execution there.
George
Karlaftis just came close to getting them, but as you mentioned, they didn't really maintain their rush lanes. Frustrating.
I wonder if Chiefs-Panthers will be closer than anticipated just off of the fact that the Chiefs do seem to be one of the teams that tries to do things that are underdeveloped in games where they know that their best is not needed to win. And maybe. I think that one of the most important things that happens on Sunday is just keep giving Worthy a couple deep shots.
Yeah, no, I mean,
just keep trying to figure it out.
Similar to Rashee Rice last year, like he didn't have his first deep ball till New Year's Eve against the Bengals.
Yeah.
Pretty much like actual deep ball. Worthy's had more than that.
Yeah.
But he only has so many, receptions a game, whereas Rashee Rice was getting a lot more targets at this point. But now with Juju Smith-Schuster also out there and DeAndre Hopkins, like I don't think it's a coincidence Xavier had that big drive in the same game that their full strength wide receiver core is out there. And then it makes the job easier for someone like Justin Watson, who I continue to think can play a big role. So we'll see. it's disappointing, Gabe, because I would have liked to beat the Bills. You know, it's kind of like a win-win deal where if they win, I'd be fired up. If they lost, I can say, yeah, they know the game counts in the playoffs. You know, we've seen this script. Congrats to Buffalo on winning their Super Bowl. Like, that's, you know, Bills fans don't want to hear that.
I think, yeah.
But that's a fair spin zone. As much as my mentions, I tweeted out Travis Kelce. I don't know if you saw him clapping for a brief second. 500,000 views from most of them being angry Bills fans, being like, rah, rah, rah. Buffalo fans don't like me. Breaking news. But sky isn't falling. We'll see how they respond. And I think we're probably going to see this matchup in the playoffs because I don't know. The Ravens lose again. You're scared of the Steelers, but
I'm not scared of this again.
You're right. I know. I'm
scared of Christmas Day on short rest against the Steelers.
That's true. Well, yeah. If the Chiefs lose on Christmas Day, I never want to see that holiday again. I just play reruns of Dontari Poe catching a touchdown pass on Christmas Day, and that will be more fun. All right, let's get some college football talk in here because it was a big weekend of college football. The positive game is where we're going to start to bring a little uplifting joy for KU fans. Whew. Gabe, you were bullish on Kansas coming into this game, as was I. I said I wouldn't be surprised by any outcome, but they won a close game. They finished strong, and they upset a previously undefeated BYU team.
The luck, or sometimes you say you manufacture your own luck.
Yeah.
I think that KU got about as lucky as they could get, in large part because I think that the saying of bad process, good result could best apply to burning a timeout on 4th and 13 to then go out and pooch punt it with your quarterback and then have it just luckily hit off of a guy's helmet and you recover it. That was by far the most fortunate thing that has happened in a season of unfortunate things for KU football. But it ended up working out. And for BYU, who has seemed to have every single thing go right for them this season, it finally did not. And I think that if you told me going into the game KU only scores 17 points at BYU, I would say no chance that they win. Their defense is not holding BYU to less than 17 on the road. But the interception for the halftime by Mello Dotson was huge. The first drive of the second half, BYU took 9.5 minutes off the clock. And so it was just a shorter game, and because of that, the turnovers are magnified, and KU actually took care of the ball better than BYU did. So I think that was a really impressive stuff. And
I mean,
first back-to-back wins over ranked opponents in KU history, and now they go for 3 straight this weekend against probably the number 1 pick and the Heisman winner. And Deion Sanders in Colorado this weekend.
I go the other way around with number 1 pick and Heisman winner, but
I think quarterback is valued at the level that Shedeur could get number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, well, if they win this, then they're probably looking at a bowl game.
Possibly. Baylor's plucky.
Yeah, but after that, I mean, if KU beats Colorado, confidence has to be through the roof. And to a degree, I'm sure it is now. I'm sure they're kind of like, hey, this team we're supposed to be. And it must be bittersweet for Kansas fans to see this awesome performance, which you want to see, you feel happy for them, but you also wonder, hey, why wasn't some of this, showing up earlier? But that's where I think, as you said, it all kind of evens out, with having some bad luck in earlier games to having some better luck. Like, KU maybe should have lost this game, but they won. And there's a handful of games they should have won, and they didn't. Same goes with BYU, as you said. So either way, congrats to the Jacks. This season has not been what they expected, so you take the positivity whenever you can get it, even if it's at 1 a.m. in the morning when Gabe was still buzzing after a Arizona State Sun Devil victory. But
I was rooting on the Jayhawks because they cleared the pathway to Arizona State being controlling its own destiny to get to Dallas. So. Yeah. With that, I mean, if we're going to talk South Carolina, Mizzou, I will just say I was in attendance in Manhattan and I saw 0 snaps. I just kept getting score updates. So I will cede the floor to you on that ball game.
That's always a risky endeavor. Well, I think you can talk not necessarily specifically about the game, but just about the narratives that come out of it, because I think this was, first of all, it's absolutely heartbreaking for Mizzou fans. Yeah. I mean, they did not – first of all, Brady Cook played through injury. He was listed as doubtful on Friday. He said, I only got a couple games left in a Mizzou uniform I'm playing, which this has to be one of the toughest quarterbacks there is. Like, it's remarkable. Comes out, Mizzou doesn't play that well. But so they get down 15, and then they come back. They take the lead, and then South Carolina just has some crazy plays to retake the lead. And I'm like, all right, that's kind of when you work hard to get a comeback. We see it a lot in basketball, Gabe, right? When you come back from down 12, you take the lead, then you give it right back.
Yeah.
I thought it was something like that in football. And South Carolina's a good team. It's in South Carolina. But Mizzou slowly driving down the field. Last few minutes, it's 4th and 5. And I'm like, I honestly didn't think they were going to come through. And Brady Cook throws a dime. You've seen the touchdown.
I have.
Throws an absolute dime to Luther Burden. And your thoughts on just that moment right there with a minute left at South Carolina, need a touchdown, 4th down, game on the line, and for those two St. Louis kids to give that moment. I think if they would have won is an iconic Mizzou moment, and it still is to a degree.
Yeah, and I think that it just in general, South Carolina is a team that, like, they should have beat LSU at home. They should have.
They're talented.
They
dude.
are.
They got dudes.
For considering the defense, for Mizzou to put up 30 points is greatly exceeds my expectations for what they were going to do on Saturday. And yeah, it was one of those games where the back and forth nature at the end kind of it hurts even more. Like if Mizzou fans at 21-6, you kind of are just at the point where it's like, yeah, this is kind of what was kind of being expected of this performance, and then to take the lead and have it ripped right out of it.
A couple times there. Twice. Because as you even said, even when Brady Cook started the game, during the first drive, the line was still like 10.5-point favorite for South Carolina. So they weren't showing a lot of confidence in Brady Cook. And so, yeah, they have this iconic moment, and then in 45 seconds, South Carolina drives the length of the field, scores the game-winning touchdown, and Mizzou falls to 7-3. This is the first time – well, actually, not the first – Mizzou has had a lot of un-Mizzou-like victories where Tiger fans are used to losing in dumb ways. But last year, they won a lot of games that you didn't think they were going to win. And so now this kind of goes the other way. This was a Mizzou loss, But, I mean, even last year against LSU, they could have won Georgia. So it's not like they've been 100% charmed. But in order to keep any college football playoff dreams alive, Gabe, they needed to win this. So both K-State and Mizzou are eliminated from that conversation, which even if they get to 9 wins, which I think would be a great season for both K-State and Mizzou, it's going to be a little disappointing based on the preseason expectations. But final thing on Mizzou, Gabe, is that I just cannot stand mostly Mizzou fans that do not appreciate Brady Cook and Eli Drinkwitz for what they're doing right now. Like, I don't get it. Like, I tweeted out that, what hurts about this moment is that an iconic Cook-Burden moment will be as remembered. And a lot of people are good, but then even then I had some people going like, Cook, iconic, you don't know ball. And I'm like, what are we doing? It's like, I don't get it. And so that's what hurts, is that moment isn't as iconic as I hope it would have been.
Yeah, and I almost think that it might be one of those things where looking back on it in a couple of years, you're more fond of it because you'll see the Cotton Bowl win and see beating Ohio State, and you'll have all that kind of to remember, and you're not going to remember as much the disappointment or the what if, because it's not like you had multiple seasons of high expectations and nothing to show for it. You went and you won a New Year's Six bowl game. So
and then you still win a good bowl game.
This group still has, it still has something to hang its hat on. It's not like it's complete empty-handed. There's nothing to show for it. So
I just don't get it. I mean, for a program that had struggled, for a handful of years, not to fully embrace the current state of where they're at, it's frustrating. But I understand. Listen, high expectations. They're not meeting him. So, and I'm not saying Mizzou fans are idiots. I just don't agree with you. All right, the floor is yours. Now I give the floor back to you, Mr. Gabe. Walk us through a Saturday night in Manhattan, Kansas.
Well, so I had a wonderful time. The K-State fans.
Gabe, an Arizona State grad.
For those
that
don't. So I was outfitted in some maroon and gold. It was very apparent who I was rooting for, and I will just say off the top, K-State fans were nothing but classy. Multiple people said, I hope you enjoy the game, pregame, welcome to Kansas. I I didn't want to get into the back and forth of I live in Kansas. No worries. My brother goes to K-State, so my parents.
Did you watch the game with him, or was he?
No, he was in the student section. Okay. He asked me if I wanted to come into the student section. Into the eye of the tiger. I politely declined, but probably should have. It might have been an even more fun experience.
To be here today. Might be in the clink.
It was a great time, but I think from a K-State perspective, there was a lot of frustration in that building, and it was a little bit play calling, it was a little bit execution, it was a little bit
of everything.
It was it was a mix of it was a perfect storm of they couldn't run block. They got stopped on 4th and 1 early. The first interception of the game, I don't think you can say anything bad about Avery Johnson. It was just a great play on the ball by ASU. A tipped ball gets picked off. From there on, though, the fumble on Jace Brown, that is not on Avery Johnson. But then you get late into the game, and K-State had moments where they could have come back in, and they were starting to get chunk plays. And I was starting to, as a damaged, always something university fan, which is what a lot of ASU fans believe. I was starting to see the meltdown happening from 24-0, and you miss another kick, so it's 24-14. And then even when the last hopes are there, it's just a minute 40 left, and Avery Johnson slides inbounds short of the sticks instead of running out of bounds, and it was just like a compound of errors. Dylan Edwards got hurt, so. Yeah, there's a lot going on with K-State in terms of disappointment and the execution. I saw it was the first time that K-State has lost back-to-back games in quite a bit of time, and to come off the bye, I think that was the thing that shocked me the most. I was going in there optimistic
Manhattan
as an ASU,
where they've played well this year. They've laid 2 eggs this year. Both were on the road,
and K-State frequently outperforms expectations relative to covering the spread and dominating at home. And so I went in thinking,
I was shocked.
ASU can compete in this game, but I was realistically not expecting to win the game. I was certainly not expecting to hold a 24-0 lead at any point and to see cars driving out of the stadium at halftime. And that was something that was happening. So, I'm interested to see. I know that with all the Big 12 tiebreakers and stuff, K-State has like this slim chance. But if they can win the next 2 and get to another like Pop-Tart Bowl or something, I think that's probably the end of their season. But
breaking news: the Pop-Tarts Bowl will have 3 mascots.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw today that Chris Kleiman was talking about giving Connor Riley the green light to run Avery Johnson more.
He should have had sooner than
and
now.
But the ESPN broadcast, when I watched it back a little bit today, they were talking about Avery Johnson dealing with this hip injury and that he's not wanting to run as much. Fair. So it just seemed like a kind of comedy of errors because they also just couldn't cover the pass. Like Jordan Tyson had 175 yards, and Chris Kleiman said he was the best wide receiver he'd seen all year, which I think is incredibly high praise for Jordan Tyson because
they look good.
K-State played Arizona at the start of the year, and Tet McMillan is going to be a first-round pick, and he went for 115 yards or whatever.
And they played Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Right?
And, yes, they played Travis Hunter as well. I mean, Travis Hunter was injured in that game. But
okay, there we go. Did he play at all, or that was the game he got
played
hurt?
a little bit, and then he got hurt.
Okay.
Yeah. So K-State has seen a fair share of decent wide receivers, and Jordan Tyson had an incredible game.
He was really good. But the other thing, Gabe, K-State forgot how to kick a field goal, forgot how to snap a field goal.
Hand up, I may have reverse jinxed poor special teams on the show on Thursday.
Because that's what, when it was 24-0, I was like, all right, I'm not going to really I got work to do. Okay, I stopped watching as closely. And I give Kansas State credit for trying to fight back in a way that it maybe should have been closer at the end than it was. The missed field goals, then the turnovers, the interception. This was if they kicked those 2 field goals, it's a completely different ball game.
Absolutely.
That's where it's a game based on swings and based on a few key plays. And we're used to Kansas State always being the sound team and winning those fulcrum plays. But this is a new Arizona State team, man. They were not scared of playing in the cold, as some people thought it. No, they
It was
came
not
ready.
cold on Saturday
Exactly,
night,
but the narrative of a South team going north, they came ready. They weren't scared of the number 16 ranking, and we saw an emotional Chris Kleiman after the game. It'll be interesting to see how this Kansas State team responds because back-to-back weeks now that I've really been surprised by the output. What is it me going forward? I'm still bullish on this program, but it's disappointing.
I think it's interesting, and it irks me a little bit that the 16-team Big 12. Now all the talk is that the teams at the top of the league just never played anybody, and then the teams at the bottom of the league, they just got unlucky on their schedule, and it's like, you know what? K-State lost to the 14th, 15th, and 16th ranked teams in the preseason in the Big 12 poll. So they lost to teams that people